Yes, I got a thumbs up.
Yes.
Okay. Huh?
Yes.
Oh, people, yeah, there are people, you can see them up there. They put their thumbs up. They're good. So I just want to thank you for coming, and this is really exciting. For this year, we have our this summer series, Gardens of the Northwest Bronx. And I'm very proud to say these are gardens that I just feel really close to, especially like Riverdale Neighborhood House. It was a garden that I was working with and with their after school program. And then I was there for 3, 4 years. They took it and got Emma and ran with it. So I'm very excited to talk about, with her. But also we have other gardens that we're going to be doing over the summer. August, we have Kingsbridge Heights Community Center, and they're amazing. They have 2 gardens there. Then of course, one that I'm personally close to is Shavir Community Garden that I've been running for about 12 years, but now we have an amazing steering committee and a couple gardens, and it's all for people 55 and older. Then we have Outer Sea Shadow, which is garden part of Marble Hill Apartments down on Broadway. So I'm going to now turn this over to Emma. If anybody has any questions, raise their hand during the thing and let us know. If anybody online has any questions, go ahead and put it in the chat, and we promise we'll get to that at the end of the presentation. Share the screen. You got it. You got it all set.
Hi there. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try to speak as loudly.
Well, you do have the mic, so just make sure I'll turn it up.
Yeah, I'm just trying to share my screen.
Okay, do you need a mouse?
Should be good. Okay. Hi everybody, my name is Emma Pollock. I am the Director of Community Engagement and Development at Riverdale Neighborhood House. I've been at RNH for about almost 4 years. I started there to very much build this project at this garden, so I'm very excited to be here to talk about it. Just a little bit about myself. I grew up in Riverdale. I was spent all of my childhood here, and then during COVID, I had just finished grad school. I was doing my master's in public health, focused on climate change and sustainable food systems. And I moved home, thought I was going to be living with my parents for a month or 2, and then COVID hit. And I got stuck there for a lot longer than I thought I would. But sort of the beauty of being in Riverdale, back at home, it allowed me to reconnect with my neighborhood.
I think you need the mic a little closer to you, or give you a headset, because people say better. Right. Can everybody hear better? Yeah. Say you have to talk.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I mean, I know you can hear me, but
can everybody online hear? Yes. Okay. All right.
We're gonna go with it. All right. So moving back to Riverdale allowed me to reconnect with my neighborhood, allowed me to reconnect with friends, allowed me to sort of see the place with a new lens. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about that here. Just out of curiosity for the folks in the room, who knows Riverdale Neighborhood House? All right, so we have a few, some don't. See. So Riverdale Neighborhood House is a settlement house. We're located on Mosholu Avenue and 256th Street. This year is our 152nd year as an organization. It was founded by Grace Dodge as a 16-year-old. She started a lending library out of her greenhouse on the Dodgewood estate. It's called Greystone Manor. It's still in the neighborhood. And today the organization serves a multitude of programs. We have programs that range. I think you hold it. I will hold it back. If somebody. Can you hear this now?
Yeah, I think that's better. That's better. Yeah.
So Riverdale Neighborhood House provides programs for all ages, from as young as 2 to, I think our oldest participant is 96 years old. And we do that through a variety of programs. You can see We have our early childhood education program, so we have about 100 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds who come to school with us every day. We do after-school programming for kindergarten through 8th grade. We do middle school programs on-site at RNH, as well as, I think they might just need to make their volume louder on their computers. It's still getting some.
Yeah, I mean, I've turned you up as loud as I can, so maybe just hold it a little closer to your mouth and see if that works.
We do middle school programming on site at our modular campus, as well as at Tech Academy and RKA. We high school programming, so college and career support, teen internships, recreation, and such. There's also a range of community programs, so that is a department that I oversee, which includes classes, so Pilates and yoga and art, as well as a telephone reassurance program where we have volunteers to make calls to homebound older adults every day, and checking in on them. And then we've been building on more and more events and programming that are just focused on bringing community members together and cultivating individual connections. A lot of our work is guided by more and more research that shows that people who are closer together, communities are stronger, they have more impact, they have better health impact, mental health benefits, community resilience. There's just so many quantitative and sort of measurable impacts that come through having a connection with somebody. Which brings me to the Food and Farm Hub, which is why we are here today. So Riverdale Neighborhood House began in a greenhouse when Grace Dodge created the library. And in April 2021, we decided to return to our roots of sort of having a lending library, a place that is for the people, by the people, and something that is really focused on greening the neighborhood. So we dug up, as Barbara mentioned, we've had different gardening programs in the past, but if you've ever been to the Riverdale Neighborhood House campus, there's a lot of asphalt that is quite ugly. So we decided to dig up 3,000 square feet of asphalt to build our Food and Farm Hub. And the Food and Farm Hub is dedicated to building a more equitable food system, one that balances the immediate food, health, and economic needs of the neighbors with a long-term demand for community resilience. So the Food and Farm Hub, some of the reasons why we decided to do this was we really looked at the data and looked at our surroundings. 1 in 4 Northwest Bronx residents experiences food insecurity. There's some neighborhoods where this number goes to higher than 30%, higher than 40%. It's something that I think a lot of times we think of Riverdale as being a more affluent neighborhood, but there's actually a much higher need for food and green spaces than we think of. According to a recent community survey, 14% of residents don't have access to daily fresh produce. And then there's also only 3 registered food pantries that are serving over 8,500 people living below the federal poverty line. So there is a need for food and a limited amount of food available. Simultaneously, Riverdale, you think of it as a very green neighborhood. A lot of that greenery is in private homes or through organizations and not necessarily accessible to everybody. So compared to the city, which has about 25% of public land available, Riverdale only has 12.6% of land for public parks. And then it depends on what your definition of a community garden is, but there's only really 2 community gardens in the Northwest Bronx compared to about 115 across the Bronx. So we were thinking about all of these different components, thinking out how can we try to address some of these needs in the work that we do. All of these numbers are from research reports done by the city, done by other organizations. But then last year we decided to take it into our own hands and we did a community survey where we sent out a survey. Maybe some of you filled it out, maybe you didn't, it's okay. About 500 residents filled it out, and the data mirrored what we were seeing in reports. There were about 83% of residents who filled out the survey said that they wanted more access to green space. 82% more access to community gardens, and also 83% wanted more access to volunteer opportunities. At the same time, you see on the right side of the pink diagram, 23% of respondents had a need for food assistance, and 19% had a need for SNAP enrollment or enrollment in other food-related benefits. So even though that 23 and 19% is not one of the highest needs we see, 23% of folks who still need food is a huge number, and something that we're not trying to ignore in our work at RNH. Any question, and feel free in the group here if you have any questions. Yes.
I'm interested in making calls to homebound people. And I always like arts, so if I could I just like drop in sometime?
Yeah, so the question was about how to get involved with RNH. I'm gonna answer that all at the end. But if there's any questions on the data or any sort of the need for food and green space, otherwise I will continue on. So we decided to take all that and build a garden. This was our property beforehand. You can see lots of asphalt. It doesn't help that this photo was taken in the middle of winter, so it looks even more bare than usual. And so over the course of really only 2 weeks, we transformed this space into a garden. And then over the course of 3 years, the seasons and garden seasons have become more and more lush. But so the space turned from this to what it is today, which is a very vibrant and green. So building the garden was no easy task. We thought a lot about the design, thinking about what resources we have available, what funding we have available. We were able to get a substantial donation from a family that really helped create this garden. But we couldn't have done this build without the support of the community. So the tricky thing about Riverdale Neighborhood House is that we offer programs all year round. Including a lot of kids programs. So to be able to take the time to build something is a scheduling like miracle. We had a 1-week period where the kids were away for spring break, where we were able to dig up all this asphalt, put down a drainage system, build 18 raised beds, and fill the beds with 40 tons of soil. We had 2 days to move 40 tons of soil with wheelbarrows. I'm still slightly traumatized from those 2 days, but we couldn't have done it without all of the extra hands of neighbors who came out just to help us build this space. A few things about the garden build itself. We decided to build raised beds. There were many thoughts of should we build in the ground, just growing things right in the ground? Should we have beds that are designed for children so they're really low to the ground? Do we want to have beds that are really high up so it doesn't require bending? There are a lot of things like who is the audience of our garden, and how are we going to make it as accessible as possible? We ultimately decided to do raised beds. Part of this was across the city, soil is contaminated. It would have taken a lot of money and time to bring in enough soil so we could go on right in the ground. It also, raised beds allows for more accessibility. So we decided to do a height that was sort of in between a 3-year-old and somebody who might not want to bend over as much. We used wood that was old floorboards from a brownstone in Harlem that was made out of an old growth white pine. And we decided to burn them following this Japanese method called shoguban, which you burn the wood and it helps prevent rot and decay and keep out some of the pests. It has been somewhat effective. We had to do a little bit of bed repair this spring, but overall it has created a really nice aesthetic. And the beds have been standing strong for their 4th growing season this year. And then the soil was a mix of 50% soil and 50% compost. And even though we spent a fair amount of money on the soil, it wasn't that great of a quality. So over the years, we've been really trying to invest in making that soil as healthy as possible by adding compost, by adding different crops into it, by adding fish meal and kelp meal, so ground up fish bones. One of the key principles of the garden is that we're following something called agroecological principles. So really farming with nature. We're not adding synthetic fertilizers in. We're trying to be as sustainable as possible, not just because the garden is feeding people and is being worked with kids, but we're really trying to think about the future of our planet and our growing. So the first planting you can see in this upper right corner was actually done on April 22nd, Earth Day 2021, which was a really nice sort of moment to finally have some kale growing in the garden. Over the course of the first year, we learned a lot about what works and what doesn't work. We're still learning today. And all of the crops that we decided to grow are decided based off of community input, something that we think kids might enjoy, things, plants that people enjoy cooking with, eating raw, etc. So a little bit more about what we call the Food and Farm Hub. So the Food and Farm Hub is made up of 4 different components. There's the educational garden, the neighborhood fridge, the teaching kitchen, and food distribution. When we were building the garden, we wanted to make sure it didn't exist alone in its own silo, but was really tackling all the issues that are in our neighborhood in a comprehensive solution. So growing food is important, but how do you get the food to people? How do you inspire and teach and make sure that this garden just doesn't just stop here, but continues with the next generation, with community members? How do you use the garden space as a way to bring community members together, to build relationships, to allow people to have sort of civic engagement and the feeling of giving back to the neighborhood? And also, how do you make sure we're like, eating it, right? The best part about gardening is you have a delicious vegetable at the end that you can then turn into a dish. So kind of going through the different stages. So the educational garden, we use the garden throughout the year. As I mentioned before, we have programs for kids every day, age 3 to 12. And so our after school kids take part in weekly gardening lessons. So they might start with digging and talking about worms. They might be doing a lot of composting. They might be cooking. They might be harvesting, watering. Just something that sparks curiosity, allows kids to get their hands dirty in the soil, to sort of connect with food systems. And the hope is to really not only create this next generation of environmental stewards, but also empower this younger generation to really take these systems on. One of the, I think, most important, really my favorite part about the garden is our summer teen internship program. So for the last 4 years, we've had teens age 13 through 18 who are responsible for maintaining the garden all summer long. So they will learn how to harvest, they learn how to take care of the plants, they learn how to decide what plants come next, but they also are moving the food from the garden to the community fridge. They're maintaining our weekly farm stand. They're doing projects. So last year, one of them built a pollinator garden. This year, some of them are creating a whole food waste cookbook. And you really get to see the sort of change and growth in these teams. The first year, one of our interns said she hates getting her fingernails dirty. She like wouldn't touch the soil. She'd only put her gloves on. She wouldn't go near it. And by the end of the summer, we were visiting a farm in Westchester, and she was the first person to raise her hand, dig her hand right into the compost pile, hands dirty, no hesitation whatsoever. We've also, through the internship program, have seen teens change their career and college paths. We've had a few go into environmental science. One of our alumni is now at SUNY Forestry, doing all work on sustainable agriculture. So it's been really rewarding to see these teams get involved. The other major component of our food and farm hub is the community fridge. So we built the garden in April 2021. We installed our community fridge in May 2021. The thought right now, as mentioned before, is that this is a way to make sure that we're not just growing in a vacuum, but we're making sure that the food we're growing is going to the community directly surrounding us. So there are a few community fridges across Riverdale. The Friendly Fridge has been our inspiration since day one, and we work really closely with them on 242nd Street. And we installed the fridge with a little hesitation. We thought, okay, what's the real need for food in our neighborhood? Most people are living in homes. It seems like it's more affluent. There's no real need. Over the last 4 years, we have moved thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds of meals, of fresh produce, of bread, of staples in and out of the fridge. There have been days where we've put food, loaded the fridge up 5 times and it's been emptied out in one single day. So it's really sort of unlocked a hidden need of need for food. And it's not necessarily, sometimes people will be walking down the street and they forgot their lunch, they're grabbing their lunch. There will be bus drivers and people working in the neighborhood who stop on their routes just to grab something. It's having access to fresh produce, being able to save money to make other decisions in their life, being able to afford some other items. We work a lot with schools to capture food waste from the schools and repackage meals. We work with restaurants, so they'll donate their extras at the end of each day to put into the fridge. You see families making sandwiches and putting little notes of kindness on them. And it's just a wonderful corner where people come together. When we, the day we installed the community fridge, I got screamed at on the corner by somebody saying, I am ruining the neighborhood. There is no need for this fridge in this neighborhood. Started quoting statistics that didn't make sense. And I just sat there silently. And I'm happy to say that like over the 4 years, the fridge itself has proven this man wrong. It has been a really wonderful resource. So the community fridge is building food sovereignty. So food sovereignty is not just about providing access to food and addressing food insecurity. It's allowing people to make the decisions they want, allow them to make the decisions of what they want to eat, what they want to grow, what food is important to their culture, to their diet, giving people their own sort of authority in all of that. Mutual aid is a big principle of the community fridge. Mutual aid is based on, it's about building community, it's what we can do for each other. It's take what you need, give what you can. There's no expectations, it's just built on this fundamental foundation of neighborliness. We're also trying to destigmatize what it means to use a community fridge. Our kid participants help stock the fridge every day. If you ever come by, you'll see tons and tons of bagels. We get Riverdale Bagels donates hundreds of bagels every day, and we repackage them and put them in the fridge. It's about tackling food waste. So instead of food going into the landfill and creating pollution and methane and contributing to climate change, it's redirecting that excess food to people who need or just want food. And I think the fridge is quite pretty. So we worked with a local artist to paint it to make sure it's sort of blended in. The third component of the Food and Farm Hub is our teaching kitchen. So we renovated our kitchen 2 years ago so that it's a space where cooking classes can take place. So our students do cooking classes each week, our interns do them almost daily, where they're able to take the food from the garden and transform it into a delicious meal. And it allows them to learn skills about cooking and nutrition. There's workforce development opportunities with there. It's community connections. This is a picture of Arnie Adler, who you might know. He's the bread baker of Riverdale. He does a monthly bread baking workshop for us. A lot of times it's intergenerational. We have families here coming together around a shared table to literally break bread and have conversations that bring people together.
Excuse
Yeah.
me.
This is at Riverdale Neighborhood House, which is on Mosholu Avenue and 256th Street. 256. Yeah. Right across the street from the restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
You lived over there?
You used to live up there.
Very nice. Yeah, so Riverdale Neighborhood House has been around since 1872. It's currently on the property since 1938. Yeah, right by the embassy. Yeah. It's hard to miss. No, sorry, the Food and Farm Hub is thinking about diversified food distribution. So we talked about the neighborhood fridge as a way of getting food out. From there, we learned that there's a need for food. So we have a monthly food distribution that we do. So about 150 folks come each the fourth Wednesday of every month to pick up a package of fresh produce and pantry goods. We also have a farmers market on Thursdays that is run by the youth, by the teens. So this farmers market, you can use SNAP, you can use health bucks, you can barter if you'd like, probably. And the market's run by our teens, so they learn about entrepreneurship, customer relations, and it's just a way of sourcing food from other farms in the New York area and bringing them to community members. The Riverdale CSA, which stands for Community Supported Agriculture, has existed for over 25 years. That is also based out of Riverdale Neighborhood House. So every week, members will pick up a share from their farm and get produce home. And then lastly, we also need to make sure we're sustainable in our model. So right before I came here, I dropped off 2 boxes of fresh produce to Moss Cafe. Moss Cafe purchases vegetables from us every week. So we're trying to make sure that we're not just, we need to sort of subsidize some of our costs and to cover that. So we're working with a few small businesses to sell some of our food too. And then I think the most important part of the Food and Farm Hub, which was probably the biggest unintentional impact of it, was that it's become this community gathering space. So by physically transforming our property from asphalt to a green space, it has brought community members together. People have just walked by and stopped in. I see Rick there who wanders in all the time. And we've turned the space into a place where we've had dinners. So we've had community dinners there. We've had family dinners there. We have a music in the garden series. So last week we had klezmer night. 2 weeks ago we had salsa night. And it has been a place where people can come and just have an escape a little bit from the busyness around them. It's turned almost slowly into an oasis, and it's on the path of becoming a third place. That space that's between your home and your work, a place where anybody's welcome and anybody can come together in community. So there's tons and tons of research about the various benefits that are associated with community gardens. My social media feed is all about how gardening now is going to improve my life by X, Y, and Z. They've really pegged me in all of their ads. But some of these studies that show the impact of urban green spaces include improved health, reduced food insecurity, expanded social capital, so building of networks and bonds, promoting social change, one idea that sparks in the garden can then lead to something else, improved mental health, improved neighborhood safety and prosperity. The research goes on and on. And I think really more than anything, the Food and Farm Hub has helped build community in our corner of the Northwest Bronx. You can see this hopefully through all the different participants who've come through to volunteer, to plant something, to buy a plant, to put a sandwich in the community fridge, to take a meal out of the community fridge, to sit at a shared table and in conversation with each other.
Space.
The whole area is about 3,000 square feet. The question was how large is the area? The area is about 3,000 square feet and is made up of about 18 raised beds. But as a result of all of this work, we've been working on developing more garden spaces. So we've taken our sidewalks and started to build pollinator patches. We took an empty sort of lot we're next to PS 81. So we created a little pollinator retreat there. We're building out a community compost program, hopefully. And then this picture, where is this picture? In the upper right-hand corner, you can see we built a little pollinator patch on Fields Road and Marshall Avenue. So not sure how legal it was, but we just started to dig in and plant. And every person who drove by said thank you. One guy kept giving me money to buy lemonade. So there's a lot of neighborhood support for all of this. So that's my presentation. I'm happy to answer any and all questions, whether it's anybody online or in the room.
Sell any of this,
Yeah, so the question is, do we sell anything? Every Thursday we have from the end of May to mid-November, we have a youth market. And we're selling produce from the garden there. And so anybody can stop by and purchase. And then we also sell food to Moss Cafe, which is on Johnson Avenue, and then a couple other places. There's a company called Bronx Hot Sauce, which has a really interesting model where they'll give community gardens pepper plants. So we will grow out their peppers and then sell the peppers back to the company and they turn it into hot sauce. Which is great. It's delicious hot sauce. And at the end of the year, they'll offer to either pay us in cash or hot sauce. So we have the option.
A Sunday farmers market.
The question was, do we have a Sunday farmers market? We do not have a Sunday farmers market, but the Riverdale Y runs a Sunday farmers market, right behind Riverdale Temple. So that runs, all year long. I think in the winter they move to an indoor location. And then there's talks about, there's a new farmers market that's in the works of being developed on Saturdays at Church of Media.
Are the cooking baking event, how people will know about it and
Yeah, so there's a question about how to take part in any of our cooking classes and the costs associated with that. So all of those programs you can register online. Our website is riverdaleonline.org. Or you can send me an email. I'm sure Barbara, if you want to send out my email. So if that
or you
works.
can get into, I can help you get.
Yeah, you can get in touch with Barbara. The baking classes happen usually once a month with Arnie Adler. We also do free cooking workshops where it'll be come help us create meals for the community fridge. And those take place usually on Saturdays. And the bread classes are throughout the week. How large is the fridge? The fridge is just a fridge. It actually, our fridge finally died a few weeks ago. And then the day it died, we got a text from somebody saying, hey, do you need a fridge? I have access.
Wow.
So we have a new fridge in. It still needs to be painted, but it's just a regular fridge. But one of the big issues between our fridge, through the friendly fridge, through the different gardens, is cold storage and being able to find a place where we can have more storage. Because sometimes, especially the friendly fridge, we'll get pallets and pallets of food on one day, and like then you're rushing to try to get it out. So we're currently working on building a small cold storage system that hopefully will work. What time is the farmers market? So the farmers, it's a farm stand that runs on Thursdays from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Between end of May to mid-November. And it's right outside our front lawn on 5521 Marshall.
Luciana, you had a question?
Where do we get the food from the fridge? It's a great question. The food from the fridge comes from all over. So yesterday, one of our volunteers picked up 8 giant boxes of bananas and cauliflower from a grocery store that was getting rid of it. We put food from the garden. There'll be schools, so schools will repackage their meals. Tierney's, which is a local deli right by us, will bring us their platters at the end of the day and we repackage those. Community members will just make sandwiches. There's a lot of rescue that just happens. Riverdale Bagels, which is on Riverdale Avenue, puts their bagels out every day for the community fridges, so we repackage those. There's a lot coming from Hunts Point. There's some farms upstate that donate to the fridges. There's a lot of just really good people out there who are putting food in the fridges, but there's also a lot of opportunity to try to find a way to capture more food and redirect it. Yes, Rick.
To assess who gets individuals, families, how is that?
Yes. So the question was, have we been able to assess who gets the food? Is it individuals, families, old, young? I think the beauty and also one of the challenges with the community fridge is that it's completely anonymous. We're not monitoring it. We can see anecdotally who takes from it. And
I'd say it's a real range of folks. There's a lot of people who are working in the neighborhood who will stop by and take food. I've seen bus drivers stop by, parks department. I've seen families, I've seen coworkers, I've seen sort of everybody, old, young, all ages. There's been moments where you see a lot of people will take a fair amount of food, and as soon as you start talking to them, you realize they're not just taking for themselves, they're taking for their neighbor, they're taking for their family, they're taking to a friend who can't access the fridge. So some people get a little angry when they see somebody loading up. I think there's usually a bigger reason behind why they're doing that, and it's great that there's a resource that just lets them do it. I've also seen people take food, go home with it, and then come back and put the food into the fridge because they're like, oh wait, I don't actually need this, or I have access to this.
I have a question. Do you know about how much you actually grow? Do you know?
The question is, how much food do we actually grow? I do not, and that's my big goal for this year. So every time we're harvesting food, we're measuring it and weighing it. Tracking all of this has been a bit of a challenge because we have so many different hands, and frankly, like I'm eating tomatoes left and right, so I'm not weighing how many tomatoes that I'm growing or eating. But it's our goal this year to figure out how much we're growing. Great question. So the question is, how do we keep the garden going in the wintertime? I'd say one thing that over the last 4 years that I've been really surprised by is how much you can see the impact of climate change over the last 4 years. Things that we start a lot of our seeds inside. So we'll start them like in an office with grow lights and heating pads. And it used to be that the last frost date in New York, which is usually a guideline of like when is it safe to put plants outside. It used to be April 30th, now it's April 15th, some people say April 1, everybody has a different calendar for that. We got a grant through the New York State Department of Agriculture to work on our season extension. So we built a little greenhouse this year, and we also use these things called row covers and low tunnels. So they're little hoops with like netting and plastic that you can put over and sort of grow through the winter. Between like the end of November to beginning of March, the garden is pretty not really in growth. But we'll move some of our education programs inside, so teaching the kids about compost, about cooking, about food waste, about planting seeds, starting seeds. Yes, so the question is, do we have an August 1st music event? We do. We have a concert this Thursday at 6:30. It's not on the website, thank you. So we have a Music in the Garden series. So we've had 3 or 4 concerts. Next one is this Thursday, we have another one next Friday, and then we'll be back in September. This week is Kevin Kane, who's actually one of our big fridge volunteers. Next week's is a Latin jazz quintet. And then in September, we have a Roots Americana duo.
You know, the only time that I had used the friendly fridge was, I think 2 years ago. It was like 100 degrees out. I'm really dying walking up Broadway, 231st. I saw someone put a whole case of water there, and I said, "This has got to be a blessing." I took about 3 bottles and I drank it down because it was a really, really hot day. And I have to say that was a blessing. I appreciated that.
Yeah. No, and someone just shared a story about using the fridge when there's a hot day and they needed water. And I think we often have this view of what these fridges are for, who they are for, but there's so many basic needs that we have across that impact all of us. So building more of these community resources and assets. Yesterday I took, there were all these bananas. I was like, oh great, I haven't eaten lunch, let me have a banana. There's the water is a huge one, just having a place that you can drop something off. I always laugh at like Passover, the fridge just fills up with bread products because everybody's trying to offload their bread products. So it serves, it serves people in multiple ways. Any other questions?
Yes,
I have a grant deadline of September 15th, so hopefully we'll have cold storage by September 15th.
That was served.
Agota, I don't find the cooking and baking on the riverdaleonline.org, but
Yeah, so the question was about the cold storage system. There is a really interesting tech, piece of equipment called, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the term right now, a cool bot. So it's a way for farmers or folks who need to build cold storage to retrofit a shed with a AC unit, like a window AC unit, and this little computer device overrides the AC's internal thermometer. So allows you to go as low down to 40 degrees so that you can turn an insulated space into basically a walk-in cooler. For usually a walk-in fridge is like $5,000-$10,000. This, you can do it if you have a shed for like $300. So right now I'm trying to find that shed. And so I'll answer you another time, Rick, about how many people will be able to help with the cold storage.
I have a question online. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Hi, Emma. Thank you so much. It's Tenzin. I just wanted to express my gratitude to the garden. Can you hear me okay or no?
Yeah, hold on, let's just turn up. Go ahead, again, I'm
All right.
turning.
Okay. I wanted to express my gratitude to Riverdale Neighborhood House. I'm a relatively new volunteer, and my job on Tuesday mornings is to water the whole vegetable garden. And it's really, yeah, it's so I just wanted to say it's a beautiful way to find, some volunteer work that interests us to get involved. It's really, really fun to be there every week. So thank you very much. And maybe other people will find ways to also, contribute their gifts. Yeah.
And thank you very much. The garden was perfectly watered this morning. It was a real treat.
All your efforts. We are all benefiting from it. We'll learn a lot from you.
Thank you so much.
And I will try to do what I can do.
Appreciate that.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
We're really working on ways to have more people come and visit us and participate in our programs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if you're interested in volunteering or getting involved, please reach out to me, or Barbara, and we can facilitate.
Absolutely,
And I know we're working on scheduling a tour of the garden.
that would be in October. In October, we're gonna set up a date today, yeah. Right. Anybody else online who? Oh, that was, okay.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. Okay, here we go.